And we're good.
Welcome to the Rouge, White, and Blue CFL podcast. My name's Oz Davis. I'm the co-host of the show. Joining me, as always, is my co-host Joe Pritchard, to whom I would like to wish, along with our audience, a happy opening day eve.
Yes, and by the time you're watching this or listening, it's probably going to be opening day or even after.
Yeah, most likely. Most likely. Also, depending on what part of the world you are in.
Yes,
Okay.
because for you, isn't today opening day?
Yep, today is already opening day. But I'll have to look at the timetable to see if the game actually kicks off on
No,
Thursday.
I think it's like 2 o'clock your time. So no,
Yeah,
you're on Eve as well.
right. Eastern Hemisphere opening day is Friday. For our friend Greg James, I mean, he'll catch that at a nice time. He'll probably be able to watch that starting at like 10 a.m. or something.
Yeah, God
That's
only knows.
exactly
That's too much math for me this late at night.
right. And in Australia, okay. Anyway, right. So it's opening day. We are going to do the favored Sisyphean task of sports podcasters worldwide and make some predictions, especially easy in the CFL, right, Joe?
Oh, we always get every prediction we make right. 100% not guaranteed.
Okay. Last week we talked some futures. I still have not actually filed my picks yet in that contest over there at the
You've
league's
got
official
like
website.
24 hours, so get on it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I have time. Over at the league's official website, cfl.ca. Check that out. It's a lot of fun. You have to register to get that, but you also get access to what? The daily fantasy, if you want to play that. You have access to the CFL Pick'em contest, which is futile but fun year after year. And what else do they have this year? There's another game, isn't there?
Because
There's futures,
I think it's
fantasy.
like where you make picks based off of like whichever team, like a lot of more prop bets.
Yeah.
Your favorites.
You're right. You're right. I think it's week to week prop bets is a game that they're offering over there this year as well. Um, that one I won't be playing. I can't stand prop bets. I do like bets. And I'm going to like betting week one this week, I got to say. But we'll talk about that later. First off, I wanted to take the big picture view of the season. Now, Joe, you came ready with predictions. So I'm going to have you start. Joe likes to break down the season with win loss totals as well as finish, standings board predictions. So I don't know. I'll ask you to start. You want to go east or west?
Well, let's go east. Why not?
Okay, great. Hit me. What are you
Okay.
thinking this year?
My
Actually, you
exhaust.
know what? You know what? I'd like to do this inside out a little bit. My
Okay.
question to you, first question to you is, which three teams do you not have making the playoffs?
Okay. Which three teams do I have not making the playoffs?
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
have, honestly, I have everything the same as last year except that Saskatchewan gets better and so does Edmonton, which means Edmonton and Calgary are out and Ottawa's out.
Okay.
Edmonton loses a the crossover tiebreaker because they cannot win a tiebreaker against Hamilton, just to give a
Okay.
sneak peek.
Okay. Okay. The other question I had for you is who gets the six? Okay, so you've got Hamilton there. Okay, I
Right.
like this.
And it's going to be 5 teams that are very safely in the playoffs, and week 21 is going to be okay, which other team sneaks in,
That's completely different
which
from
makes
seasons past.
a lot of
Um,
chaos, and we like chaos, right?
well, yeah, except when you got to play pick'em. um, Week to week chaos is not so much fun if you're playing pick'em or if you're betting for that matter. Okay, because I'm going to make a prediction about the predictions. I am going to predict that we only agree on one team's placement out of the nine.
Ooh, okay.
In the spirit of the CFL is unpredictable as hell, I really shook things up. I've got
Okay.
some wacky predictions for you. But sorry to interrupt, but I did want to get in that question first about the playoffs. So hit me with your Eastern picks. What do you
Okay. I think you'll like this one. I'd
got?
have Montreal at 12-6, winning the East.
Right?
Toronto at 10-8, not taking quite as big of a hit as a lot of people expect with all the free agent defections and their quarterback quandary is the nice way to say it.
Hmm.
I think they come out maybe a little bit slow out of the gate trying to get everything put together, but I trust their coaching staff to know what they're doing. So they'll be competitive. It might even be a close loss in Montreal that swings the tide of everything.
Mhm.
Got Hamilton at 7-11. I just don't see what they're trying to accomplish here. And Ottawa is on my do not trust until they actually show you should trust them list from like the last 3 seasons plus 5-13.
5-13. Wow. Poor
Mm.
Ottawa. When I was making this up, I felt like I felt bad for the various fan bases, basically. I tried I tried to decide who I feel worse for in a way. Now, obviously, I didn't have any problems with, putting Calgary pretty low. They had their run. They had their time in the sun. So I don't feel too bad about that. But man, to doom Ottawa or Edmonton to another losing season like this, to another, endless litany type of season. I feel bad for some fan bases out there with these picks. But here's what I got
I
in the
would like to
East.
be wrong about Ottawa.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah. Wouldn't you? Yeah. Yeah. Because it is a good market. It is a good they do have a good fan base. But lately it's just those poor folks. I mean, it's just not been worth watching out there these past couple of seasons. Okay, so yes, the one team that I suspected we would agree on and their placement was the Alouettes. Now, last week we talked about the futures picks and went with the Alouettes for best record in the league. I think I am going to stick with that pick. So I have them at 13-5 as the best record in the league this year. Looking at the schedule, after this first game, I see 5 or 6 straight wins after that. So I'm fully expecting to be looking at this table in August and to see the Owls in first place by a bit of a margin. Uh, I just personally speaking, uh, I've got Tyson Philpott, Grey Cup hero, in week one on my fantasy team. You bet. It was nice to see Davis Alexander. It looks like he's going to start the team. The word from the Flight Deck podcast is that he'll be the number 2 quarterback ahead of Caleb Evans, who played in a couple of these preseason games, and yeah, I was wondering if he was going to throw the ball at all. It said in one game in the Toronto game that he had 15 attempts, but I noticed maybe 3 of them. In I think I'm going to go with in second place because I have a tie. I have a mathematical tie. So I think just to shake things up, I'm going to take Hamilton in second. I'm going to be rational. Have Hamilton in second at 9-9. Um, Apparently, I am looking for the first year head coaches to make an impact. I guess I'm saying I do believe in culture change. I'm backing Scott Milinovich here. I'm going to be backing Corey Mason, Saskatchewan later. I think that these makeovers will be good for these teams, inject a little adrenaline into this race a little bit. Now, 9-9 isn't a fantastic record, but like a lot of teams this year, I'm expecting Hamilton to be slow out of the gate. So I'm thinking most of these wins will come late season. Um, Hamilton made some nice
which is
acquisitions in the
really the
off.
way they've done it for the last 3 or 4 years
Right,
now.
right, right. Because there is some talent in Hamilton. It's just I never believe that it's enough. And again, this off season, they made some nice acquisitions, but these things take time. The other thing that concerns me about Hamilton early, well, actually, it doesn't concern me as an Alouettes fan, but should be concerning about Hamilton early season is apparently Bo Levy is the starter here.
Hmm.
Wow. Okay. Well, he might be done as a quarterback, but at least I think he's on a short leash. I don't see him starting too many games if it isn't there. So in third, I took Ottawa, 9-9. Uh, I feel like this is a kind of a default pick given the rest of my picks here. Uh, but I don't know. There's some things to like here in Ottawa. I thought last season that they played very smart ball, very few turnovers. Um, I think that getting Dominique Rhymes back might be worth a couple of wins by itself. He's been so dominant this past couple of seasons. Really like Rhymes's game, and the really interesting bit in Ottawa is take a look at the depth chart at quarterback. Okay, so they're starting Drew Brown. Okay, they've got Jeremiah Masoli, who took a pay cut to play backup on this team, and you've got Dustin Crum, who's a proven commodity on those goal line plays. I mean, a couple of good bounces for this team, and they might even win, 9 games. So I'm going to say that Ottawa is the charm team this year. And look, here it is: Argos, last place, 7-11. Uh, in general, I mean, aside from the this team got picked apart factor in the off season, in general, and Joe knows, having done this podcast with me for years, I'm a big believer in the numbers just balancing out. And this team is on a 24-5 run with a roster that's not even there anymore. Going back to August 2022. Um, most of that team is not even there anymore, as far as I'm concerned. So I think this is the nature of the CFL. I think that this is a down season for Toronto, and I think that they might be competitive in the East, but I think in the end, this is just the nature of things. I think it's a sub 500 season. I guess I'm joining the bandwagon, Joe, on this one.
Yeah, and I feel like they're being undervalued because of all the issues they've had in the off season.
Mm-hmm.
They still have a lot coming back. That's of quality.
Sure, sure, sure. But I mean, last last season they had a super team. Last season they had a second team that could have been competitive. The thing is, they're bringing back a lot of that, but this is no juggernaut. This is no machine, and there are 3 or 4 teams that I can point to. I think as being demonstrably better than these particular Argonauts. I mean, if given a choice between 16 win team with half its starters gone, and a 14-win team who kept most of its starters, I'm thinking you go with the latter in that case to
I would
enjoy
agree.
to repeat success, right? So
Hmm.
so, and we've seen this in the NFL. I mean, in the NFL, in the CFL before. Normally, this takes some time. I mean, the Buzzards were circling Calgary every year for 5, 6 years straight, at least. And but this offseason, wow. I mean, I can't remember an offseason that was so shredding for a CFL team as this past one for Toronto. So yeah, I've got him in the cellar. Got him in the cellar. I think it's the numbers are going to balance here. Okay,
Okay.
so your West. I'm thinking, I'm no psychic, but I'm thinking you have Winnipeg repeating as Western champs.
I do. I've got them
Okay.
13-5,
Okay.
just for the fact that they did take some losses, not as bad as other teams like say Toronto. And there's the age factor too
Yes.
with a lot of their core group. Although a lot of their core group is still pretty young. I mean, your receiving core is all, under 30, I believe, which is great. Brady's only 26. I mean, the offensive line getting Stanley Bryant still of the older group, but they did lose Jamarcus Hardrick, so they have some youth there instead. Liam Dobson's younger now. Chris Kolonkowski is not that old. I mean, Willie and Big Hill are old in the defense. Brandon Alexander's getting there too. And, Father Time wins in the end, but the end isn't here yet. I don't think.
And Jeff Goat left. Jeff Goat
Right.
aged out.
And
So,
it's just the way what I've been saying over the past couple off seasons. It's like I know this group of 30-year-olds is going to be leaving piece. Let's just hope they leave piece by piece,
mhm.
so that it's one or two gaps a year that the team has to fill in, as opposed to en masse. All of a sudden, there's 8 starting positions open that were CFL All Stars,
Mhm.
and right
Mhm.
now it's piece by piece.
Yep.
And I'm
But you think
hoping
one last run? One last run here.
2 last runs because they have
Oh,
Winnipeg because
okay.
because here's my reasoning. Grey
Okay.
Cup is in Winnipeg 2025.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Zach Collaros' contract 2 more years,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Okay. All
So I
right.
could see that group or what's left of it trying to stay through the next 2 years. Hollywood ending, a bunch of them running off into the sunset after a Grey Cup win in Winnipeg, and then 2026 and beyond is the new era. Hollywood ending there for Winnipeg fans. Not so much for the fans of the rest of the league, but it would be a lot easier to digest a 9-9 2026 because you lost 4 CFL All Stars to retirement after a final Grey Cup win at home
Uh-huh.
than it would be to have them go piece by piece the next couple of years and just not quite make it to the promised land again.
Right. 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 Okay. All right. So some optimism applied to the picks here. Okay. I take
I
it
don't
you've
even
got
know.
BC
I
in
don't
the
even
two.
know if it's that overly optimistic.
Well, I mean, it's okay. Let me say it's not so much optimistic as brazen to be making. I mean, in the CFL where you have so much player movement, right? To
But
be
then
making.
look at how it's progressed over the past few years.
Mhm,
You'd lose 1 or 2 free agents to go chase a big payday somewhere else. But you're not having a Toronto season or a Calgary season where 4 or 5 of them go and chase a big payday.
mhm,
So
mhm.
either the team is getting
Right,
to the point where they're not letting so many people get to free agency, which is fantastic,
right.
or when they get to free agency, they're like, the grass isn't greener. I'll take 20K less and stay in Winnipeg and take another
Mhm,
shot with this group.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Yes, yes, and this is the one thing that Winnipeg has had going for them in this run is that there is this high loyalty in Winnipeg. I mean, I believe that Jeff Coat wanted to retire a bomber. You know, he just wanted to stick around for long enough. I think Big Hill is going to retire a bomber. So yeah, I like this. I like as compared to, for example, as I just talked about the stamps in the past or the year way back when the then Edmonton Eskimos won the title and got picked apart in that offseason. Unlike those teams, unlike in the past, Winnipeg has kept this core group of its super duper stars. This week, the
And they've added
CFL,
to it too.
right,
The even better part for Winnipeg
right.
fans.
They've brought in enough talent to go for, Dynasty 2.0 in 2026 and beyond. But they just released the CFL Top 50 report or compilation. I don't know what you would call it. And naturally, Winnipeg had, the largest amount of players, 10 or 12 or something like this in the top 50. And most of them are in the top 10. I mean, this team is loaded with veteran studs,
that want to stick
so
around.
right.
Which,
Right.
given that what you hear about Winnipeg from NHL free agents, from CFL free agents, just less than a decade ago, the team would be throwing number one receiver money for a team's third receiver to come in and be their best receiver,
Right.
which would never pan out. I mean, we're talking about a complete culture shift that's happened in
Yeah.
this past decade,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. It's
we've
amazing.
had a front row seat.
Yeah. 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 It's amazing. It's nice in the CFL for for professional football fans. It's nice in the CFL because these things can sprout very quickly. I mean, you roll the dice a couple of times well, and all of a sudden, you're winning out. You're winning the Grey Cup, and then you're carrying it for a few more seasons. So I'm hoping this works for the Alouettes, huh?
It could. I mean,
Right.
you have a GM, you have a coach,
Right.
you have good coaching staff all around. You have a quarterback that's won a Grey Cup as a starter
Mhm.
that was and like Bomber fans are shaking their head, no, don't say it, and Rider fans are doing the same thing, no, don't say it. But Cody was kind of dragged down by those Rider teams in the past few years. I remember the 2022 Banjo Bowl where half the riders were sick and they were literally busing people in from Regina to try
Oh
to
yeah.
fill roster spots the day of the game.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
Cody kept them competitive basically by himself for almost for a half and even into the third quarter where it was
Yeah.
still a semi-competitive game,
Yep.
and then after that everything caved in. But
Yeah. And he
yeah,
did
he
the whole
didn't
thing
get
running for his life as well.
right.
So I mean, their
So it's
offensive
yeah.
their offensive
So
line
we
was
can
tissue paper that game. So
us Bomber fans have made our goalpost jokes. We've made our rider jokes. At the same time, he stepped up. He had the 2-minute drill of his life. He had a really
yeah.
good game that whole
Yeah.
game. He was never flustered. He was in control. So you have a franchise type quarterback right there. So you're good
Mhm.
there. Receiving core still has some talent even without Austin Mack.
Mhm.
Defense still has talent even with a couple of losses here and there. You've got a chance to start building something too.
Mhm. Yeah. I like the way you're talking. Okay, so I'm guessing in number 2 you have BC.
I do, and I have them at 11-7.
Mhm. Okay.
They do have talent. They got hurt on the receiving core. No Dominic Rhines, no Keon Hatcher.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
going to hurt.
Okay.
Alexander Hollins is there. They could have found people to step in and fill their places. They do have William Stanback, but I don't know if he's the same William Stanback that you knew and loved for the past 5, 6 years. They've got some injuries going on defense already. They lost Matthew Betts. I just don't know. I don't have as close of an eye on them as I do Winnipeg for obvious reasons. But I don't know if they've been able to fill the holes that they have as well as Winnipeg's been able to fill theirs.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. Okay.
And then for third I have Saskatchewan at 10-8,
Right. Right. Okay.
four games better than last year, and that's
Okay.
attributed to Corey Mace coming in, just talking to Rider fans, seeing what they have to say, people that know the riders, people that cover the riders. There's definitely a sense of optimism going on here. So I'm taking that into account. I'm taking into account the fact that Trevor Harris is likely to play a lot more games than he did last year, and he's a quality quarterback. He'll keep the team
Mhm.
afloat for a while. They might have the next guy in Shea Patterson look like he took Mason Fine's job as opposed to
Yeah.
flipping
Yeah.
a coin.
Completely. Yep.
He
Totally.
went and took it.
Totally.
So
Yep.
they've got that going for them too.
Mhm.
And they still have a lot of talent too. They were too talented to be 6-12 the past 2 years.
Mhm.
And yes, I just said something nice about the Riders. I feel a little bit of shame. Sorry, it's early in the season. I'll get over it.
Well, like we talked about last week, competitive writer team is good for the league. It's good for the league.
Yeah, it's also good for Labor Day ratings and benchable
Right,
ratings. And
right. Well, just the intrigue of Labor Day too. I
well, I
mean,
have them competing all the way until like mid-October for first. So
well, nice.
that would be
That
a
would be nice.
three-team race for first into mid-October. That'd be good.
Yep, yep,
Or as the
yep.
CFL likes to say, the CFL tagline this year seems to be, it's going to be an unreal race. I hope it lives up to that. That'd be fun.
Except that there are some teams this year that nobody is giving a chance, right? Like these last two teams that you're about to talk about. Literally, I can't imagine anybody with these guys except for maybe certain podcasters who have either of these teams in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I have Edmonton coming close, but not making it.
Okay.
Uh, I feel like they're going to improve. They do have more talent than they're given credit for. Chris Jones is in his third year of having that group under him. They now have two quarterbacks that could play. McLeod Bethel Thompson, I think, is going to be a great veteran influence on Trey Ford. I think it's good for Trey Ford to maybe have a season where he's not just thrust in there and say, "Hey, go win us games. We're 0-9." I mean, when he took over, they were 0-9. They ended up what 4-14 and almost 5-13.
Yeah.
So he did pretty well. I just like the idea of having McLeod Bethel Thompson in the locker room for a season, showing him what it takes to be a successful winning quarterback in the league. If that helps Trey Ford going on to 2025 or even by the end of 2024, he may have the job back.
Hmm.
We'll
Hmm.
see, but I think having him in the room with McLeod Bethel Thompson as opposed to the rooms he's had these past few years, where it's just all quarterbacks that haven't done a whole lot in the league, and he'll have somebody to learn from finally as to what it
Hmm.
takes to take that next step. And with this athleticism, if he gets a little bit of the rub off of McLeod Bethel Thompson's knowledge and gets to know when to use his athleticism and when not to,
Hmm.
I think that's going to be only good for him.
Wow, you're giving a lot of credit to Bethel Thompson here. Uh,
A,
I mean,
a
where
veteran quarterback. He's been around. He's been in NFL camps. He's been in NFL locker rooms. He's taken a team to a Grey Cup. He knows what it takes.
right, but isn't he coming out of the USFL or the XFL or something like this?
Yeah, he was with the Breakers last year, I want to
Oh,
say.
okay, 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 okay.
So he's also
And,
been in the minor leagues.
right, right. Yeah, the minor leagues. Okay, so you have Calgary in the cellar. What do you see for them record wise?
6-12, about the
Okay,
same as last year.
okay.
I just don't see where they took a step forward.
Mhm.
They still have
Oh
a
no,
nice
no,
running game. They still got Dedrick Mills, Peyton Logan.
sure.
They've still got. I mean, I don't see where they improved though,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that's
Hmm.
the trouble with trying to prognosticate. Is that a lot of the American talent that comes into the league as rookies or second year players, even that have been on the bench the year before and you didn't get to see a lot of,
Yeah,
they could surprise you
yeah,
both ways.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
there's no
Unless you're an
hype
expert.
for the American players coming in unless they're a top flight college player, and those players never usually pan out.
Mhm.
So it's really hard to go, oh, that team added. You can't give an equivalent. They did. Hey, look, they had 5 picks in the first 3 rounds that are going to contribute. You can't do that. It's
Mhm.
not the same equivalent.
Mhm. Yeah, unless you're a fanatic for the college game. So yeah, it's hard to
Right.
tell.
Even further than is healthy.
Mhm. Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, right, right, right. Obsession, stalker level stuff. Okay, so actually, at the top of this exercise, I did say that we would only have one pick in common. I actually forgot about the Riders because, yeah, I've definitely got the Riders in third place as well. But I am going to say, and I did this last year in a similar fashion. Uh, I'm picking BC to win the thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if Winnipeg did it to them in the Western Conference final game. Would not be surprised at all. I've got BC at 12-6.
Hmm.
Really wanted to put them at 13-5, but did not. Now, you are correct. I think probably in the offseason they took a net negative. I think that by allowing Dominique Rhymes to go, um, you're putting your faith all in Vernon Adams. And I realize that making this pick, I'm doing the same thing. But Adams finally seems to have come of age. Of course, he led the league in passing yards, even though he missed a couple of games last season by quite a bit as well, by a good 400, 500 yards over the next two quarterbacks. So he can run a high flying offense. And I think that even though they took the net negative in the offseason, I think most of it was on the defense, despite Rhymes. So I think that this is going to be, again, the high scoring, exciting, fast team that we've seen in the past. And I think that that might be enough to do it in this division. So I think they're going to
Maybe,
win.
but the thing I worry about for
Mhm.
them, do you remember the West Final?
Sure.
Can you
Yeah.
picture
Yep.
that in your head?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, I don't know if it was the offensive play calling, and I'm sure I remarked on this at the time too, because it really stuck out to me the whole time I'm watching the game. But either the offensive play calling was geared to try to get the big play every single play,
Mhm.
or
Yep.
Vernon was trying to make every play
Yep.
a home run,
Yep.
and they just ignored the underneath game. Because and Winnipeg picked up on it pretty early and
Mhm.
just like, okay, you want to do that? We're just going to drop everybody back. Good luck throwing into this cloud we have.
Mhm. 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 Yes. Yes. I do
I wonder if they take something from that and learn from it. Maybe
right.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where the disconnect was there. Was it the
Mhm.
game plan, or was it the way Vernon was executing the game plan, or what was going on here? But that offense, and same thing happened the year before, just a lesser extent. Um,
Mhm.
Nathan Rourke just had his worst game of his career in short career. I should be clear about, but in the West Final too. If he would have been there last year, he may have learned from it and came out gangbusters.
Mhm.
I don't know if I don't know if I would believe the same thing quite yet with VA because he's had so much more experience, and
Mhm.
that's what he did in his first West Final.
Yes. 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 Mhm. 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 Um. Yeah. But BC is hosting the Grey Cup this year, right?
They are. I mean, that
So
in of itself makes me so confused about their off season. Like
yeah.
you would have
Yeah.
thought
Yeah.
and it might just be a testament to them sticking with a plan they had, like
Mhm.
sticking to their guns, sticking to their game plan. This could be the plan they have is you build around a certain amount of players and whatever else happens. And
Mhm.
they may not have they Dominic Ryan's may not have wanted to stay. Matthew Betts took an NFL shot. They probably didn't have as much say in it as we may think they had.
Right.
But I didn't see them going out and trying to bolster the roster to try to
Right.
leapfrog the Bombers either,
Right.
which
Right.
confused me a little bit too.
Right.
It's like they're so close, I feel like. It's just I
Mhm.
didn't see them taking that next step.
Mhm. Mhm.
But then again, that's where me not knowing their new American talent,
Mhm.
maybe they have and it's funny too because I'm thinking back to when Nathan Rourke was going to be the starter after Michael Riley retired.
Mhm.
Like you could tell BC writers and like BC personnel even were just like, you guys have no idea what we got in him. He's
Right,
going to be amazing, and they were dead
right,
right.
right. I
I don't
remember that.
quite feel that same energy this year.
Hmm. 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 Vernon Adams is not an unknown quantity either. So,
No,
um, okay, so yeah. Nevertheless, I'm gonna give that a shot. I'm gonna
yeah, and I don't think it's a terrible
try
pick.
that out. No,
It's just
no, no. I mean,
I didn't see them do anything that makes me believe they're ready to take that next step.
right, right. Well, it's early on. It's early on. So what I'm hearing from the CFL world is mostly, again, if you're going to talk about this league in terms of tiers, everybody's got three teams at the top, right? Everybody's got Montreal, BC, and Winnipeg in some order, right? So I don't think that this pick is hardly a reach
No.
for me here. We'll see because okay, so I put Winnipeg at number 2 at 11-7. One on one hand because the numbers, I like the numbers to balance out a little bit. We could see a down season here. We've got the aging factor. We've got Jeff Coat retiring. Um, Also, a key loss I thought was Jamarcus Hardrick, the offensive line who went to Saskatchewan, who seems to be one of those excited players on the Riders this year. So that for me was also a big loss. I think that if BC took a net negative this offseason, all things being equal, not considering the American talent, so did the Bombers. I believe that the Bombers also took a net negative this offseason. So again, I'm kind of penciling them in for the Western Finals, but I'm not sure that it's a foregone conclusion they're winning this division this year. So I took them down to 11-7, and then because, as you implied before, I want the horse race. I want the photo finish in the West. So I'm taking Saskatchewan at 10-8. I believe we got that exactly the same. So our only simpatico pick in this exercise. Saskatchewan at 10-8. Again, I'm putting a lot of faith in a new coaching staff and a young coaching staff, Mace and etc. However, just judging by the preseason games, there's a lot of enthusiasm here. I know that the Riders podcasters are stoked. I've been hearing a lot of word from camp. Of course, everything is optimistic coming out of camp. I love AJ Ouellette early in this season. He really impressed me in the preseason game or two that he played. I've got him week 1 in fantasy for sure. I think Trevor Harris, Trevor Harris is a stat guy. Trevor Harris will throw a lot of touchdown passes against the weaker defenses. He will feast statistically. I don't know how far they're going to get in the playoffs with Trevor, but they'll win some games. They'll win some games in the West, and I know you agree because you took them at 10-8 as well. So,
Mhm.
um,
The less nice things we could say about the Riders, the better.
of of course, I understand. Uh, Now,
I'm
okay.
kidding, mostly.
Yeah, remember, it's good for the league. It's good for the league. All right. So it's a mantra. So now, again, I'm going to apologize. I'm really sorry, Edmonton fans. Really sorry. I just don't see it. Calgary, 4th place, 5-13. We're going to have a bottom heavy league this year, I think. Okay. Calgary, again, kind of odd. They really, in general, stayed kind of pat this offseason, didn't do too much. And speaking of pat, um, American CFL fans, of course, have likened this team to the old New England Patriots in this past few seasons. And I just think it's ironic that here they are, like the Patriots, the least favored team to win the Grey Cup this year. Um, and they're running with Jake Meyer, who may or may not be the Mac Jones of this league, um, again at quarterback. So I can't see great things for Calgary this season, and I'm already beginning to see the pieces about or the podcasts about, are they going to need to blow up this coaching staff? Are they going to need to blow up this front office um, after this season? I don't know. How do you see that? I mean, you're making picks for the Bombers 2-3 years in the future. What do you see for the Stamps medium term future?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to see much improvement coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not good days for Calgary fans because I mean they're bottomed out as far as this is the least amount of talent I've seen in this team since I started watching the CFL.
Yes.
This is like John Hofnagel's no longer really involved, which means Dave Dickinson is the one in charge, which means that the records are going to fall onto him. I don't. It might be time. It might be time in the next year or two to consider closing the book on that era.
Mm-hmm.
It might
Mm-hmm.
be. It in a who knows?
Mm-hmm.
They. I mean, Dave Dickinson's a really good coach. He's been around for
Sure.
a long time.
Mm-hmm.
He has a chance to continue that. We'll have to see if he could pull something off that a lot of us aren't expecting this year. And it's really nice for teams to be under the radar early on because you just get on with your business and not have to worry about expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So they got that going for them if that's something that they are worried about.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't want to sit here and say, yeah, it's time to get rid of a guy that's a Canadian football Hall of Famer in many
Mm-hmm.
ways,
Mm-hmm.
but it might be time for new ideas there.
But you are ready to say the playoff run is over,
Yes, I am.
right?
It should have been. It should have been over last year for
Yep.
about 6 weeks,
Yep.
and they just kept like staying alive, just barely alive, and letting the Riders just like die out.
Yeah, the Riders rolled over. I mean, I
Mhm.
was I was reminded of this when I was listening to the Two and Out podcast the other day. I was reminded of this. The Riders haven't won a game after Labor Day in 3 seasons now. It's like they just rolled over at the end of that season last season. Calgary, it's the first time I've ever seen, somebody losing into the playoffs. I
Mhm.
mean, they the Riders lost their way right out of that playoff run. So, it was not so much Calgary as just a colossal collapse by the Riders. And you were talking earlier about how talented the Riders are. Yeah, they were so talented that when those guys decided to stop playing, the team, collapsed. It was a team dependent, apparently not so much on the coaching, but on the players. And when the players quit, the team quits. So it was more about, for me, that was way more about the Stamps collapse, which again doesn't seem likely to happen this year in either case. Now here we go. Edmonton, last place. Look, the thing is, it's tough to bet against Trey Ford. Trey Ford is, if not the most exciting, certainly among the most exciting players in this league. But look, the truth is, okay, he came in. The Elks were sitting at 0-9. Came in, went 4-1, but then closed the season 0-4 against BC, Toronto, Montreal, Winnipeg. Right, the quality teams of the league, and not just losing by an average of 16 points a game. I mean, so yeah, okay, Bethel Thompson is there to back him up and whatnot, but beyond this, I mean, the top signing they made this offseason was Javon Leake. I mean, come on now. Come on. Maybe, I got to thinking that maybe the Chris Jones revolving door system is better than this. because man, I mean, it was crickets this offseason for Edmonton. I, how can they be this confident in a bunch of guys who were 4-14 last season? So for me, the Elks are the team that's going to have to prove it before I move anything up. I mean, Chris Jones may be a fantastic coach and all that, but he hasn't done much in Edmonton this time around. And this offseason, they didn't do much in Edmonton this time around either. So I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry, but I just don't see it yet. I don't see it yet. I mean,
Yeah.
this.
Whereas I see them as the team that's regressing to the mean because they have a better quarterback room.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I do like the quarterback situation in Edmonton, but it dies there, doesn't it? Doesn't it? I mean, what else can you say beyond that about this team that's positive, right now? So I just couldn't back them too much. Now, okay. So my key question, my last question about this, we're going to talk about the immediate future in just a second. But my key question here is this. Which of these teams do you see with the greatest variance?
The one where I'm sitting there going, they could be 12-6 or 6 and
Right,
12.
right, exactly. And I wouldn't be surprised either way. Which team are you looking at in this respect?
I think Toronto, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, I was thinking that myself
I'm
too.
giving them credit for being over 500 because I like their
Hmm.
coaching staff. I like the quarterback that's going to be starting the season.
Hmm.
I like their overall level of talent. Yet, I think they're going to start like just pulling numbers out of my hat. I think they'll have a slower start, 2-4 or 3-3, just trying to get acclimated to
Hmm.
themselves.
Hmm.
Having Cameron Dukes become a starting quarterback as opposed to a backup quarterback, that's always a transition too. I just think they have enough talent to overcome a slow start to still have a decent run toward the playoffs.
Hmm. Hmm.
But if you have a start like that, if you have a 2-4 start, or even a 3-3 start, and then you decide to start tinkering, it could just collapse, right?
Right. As the intensity increases in the latter part of the season. All right.
Right. They
Um,
decide they decide, for example, oh, we're 2-4, let's start Brian Scott. And maybe Brian Scott is the answer, maybe he's not.
mhm,
Or hey, let's go get a veteran quarterback.
mhm,
See if
mhm, mhm,
hey, let's see if Edmonton will pick up the phone or Ottawa will pick up the phone because they have quarterback depth that we might like.
mhm.
You start doing that, and then everything is just all over the place. Good luck figuring out what's happening next.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay. Great. I'd like to go on to these week 1 games. Now, Joe, you're a solid, what, 48% player in CFL Pick'em?
It's usually a
Uh,
little bit better than that.
okay. Okay. 50?
If you're right 52% of the time, you're wrong 48% of the time, right?
Right.
That's Simpsons line.
Right. Um, okay. So, do you have any tips for CFL Pick'em week 1 of a given season?
I'm gonna violate one of these tips, but I would
Okay.
say A, don't be a hero,
Okay. All right.
and B, like just when in doubt, take the home team,
Okay. Right.
and
Right.
then like the third tip is don't overreact to week one.
Oh yeah.
Give
Oh
it
yeah.
give it about a month before you're
Yeah.
going, hey, look, Ottawa's 3-1. Are they actually 3-1, or is it just because we're in like week 6 of the preseason?
Right. 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 Yeah, I always okay. So I do like to bet. I do like to play CFL pick'em. Okay, but I always say week 1 of any football season sucks. Don't bet it. Right? Just don't even play it, right? Because the truth is after week 1, yes, we do tend to overreact, But I think that's because the difference from what you know going into week one and coming out of week one is massive.
Right.
It's massive.
And if you
It's
have
like,
a game like Montreal Winnipeg where one
mhm,
team where Winnipeg didn't play like 8 to 10 of their starters the entire preseason. I don't know how
mhm,
Montreal did, but if one team's more prepared than the other in week one, that doesn't mean that they'll be more prepared in November.
mhm, mhm. Right. Right, right, right. Exactly. So I was thinking about this a couple of months ago. I was thinking about how to approach CFL Pick'em in week one. This is how sick I am. And I thought, just all things being equal, I'm just going to go with all the home teams. I'm just going to go blind. I'm just going to pick all the home teams. And then I looked at the matchups. Okay. Like I just said, I also don't like betting in week one because I feel like I don't know enough. But I think this year I'm going to make an exception because I cannot believe the point spreads on these games this year. Okay. So let's talk about this. We'll do pick 'em. We'll talk about the spreads as well. Season, of course, opens. Uh, I guess tomorrow morning for the Eastern Hemisphere, Thursday night for the Western Hemisphere. Um, we open the season with the Grey Cup rematch. Okay, Montreal Alouettes at Winnipeg Blue Bombers. The point spread on this game is 7.5. The Alouettes are 7.5 point underdogs here.
No.
Wow. Wow. If I weren't trying to be objective, I would be pissed off. This is ridiculous. I mean, wasn't this the point spread in the Grey Cup? I think it was a little bit higher than this.
Yeah.
But what are the bookmakers thinking here? Like, even if you think Winnipeg is going to win this game, it's got to be within a touchdown, right?
Yeah.
What am I?
I
Sorry,
have
what am I?
Winnipeg by a field goal in a
Right,
not quite a classic because it's week one and both
right,
teams are still trying to find their feet.
right.
And
But
they
I
get
mean,
and I'm picking them by 3 because of the home team. If it was reversed, I go the other way. It's like I have no idea what to expect out of this.
yeah, I mean, like, I just can't believe this line. I'm just knocked out. But I mean, really? I mean, Montreal, kept things together. They've got a nice consistency here, and they're giving it more than a touch. They're getting more than a touchdown. Jesus. I might just do one of my favorite bets at the bookie, which is just, take the Winnipeg money line and Montreal plus the points, or take Winnipeg to win by a touchdown or less. But I think in Pick'em, I'm going to take Montreal. I'm going to take Montreal just to be optimistic. We're going to get this season off to a great 1-0 start in CFL Pick'em, along
Yep.
with my Alouettes.
Completely defensible pick. I see
Sure.
both teams making 2 or 3 uncharacteristic errors because it's week one.
Mhm.
And I think if all things are even, Winnipeg wins by a field goal. If Winnipeg's making 4 of those errors and Montreal's making 1 of those errors, I mean, obviously, but
Mhm.
no, I think it'll even itself out. I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a nail biter. It's not going to be. It's going to not going to be a classic. It's going to be like 22-19 or something like that.
Mhm. 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 Yeah, I buy that. That sounds about right. Okay,
I'd
so
love to say. I'd love it if it was like last year's Winnipeg home game. The 2 uncharacteristic errors are pick sixes, but like you needed to throw like 6 more of those for it to have mattered.
right. I mean, that was the thing. Again, I was looking at the schedule, and I'm looking at these first several games, and it's like, for me, if the Owls can get past this game, they might go 6-0. They might start 7-0. I'm a bit afraid of Ottawa coming to Montreal in week 3. But I mean, other than that, I mean, this is going to be the biggest test for Montreal for the first 1/3 of the season here. So I'm trying to be optimistic. I'm hoping that they pull this out, or at least put up a very good showing. Okay, second game. This is another line that I don't really get, but I guess we're defaulting to the home team. Hamilton Tiger Cats, 1 point underdog at Calgary. Now, again, I'm thinking that this is purely a homer pick by the sports books who are not sure what's going on in 2024 CFL. So I'm going to go with Hamilton. I think that just on paper, Hamilton has more talent. I think that the Ticats are going to be excited to play some of these new players coming over from Toronto, already well, how would you put it, well versed in playing with each other. And so I think they have some advantages here. I think Hamilton's going to come out to win, and I think they're going to win.
I don't think they are.
Oh, okay. Great. All right. I like this
Yes.
early on.
So,
First two picks discordant. I love it. Okay.
two reasons I'm not going Hamilton this game. One, Hamilton traveling to Calgary is never a good thing, like
Okay.
ever.
Okay.
I mean, that's history talking, but
Sure.
when you have that kind of a slump, I mean, they've won one in the last 5 years, I want to say, but like there were years where, hey, they lining up for the game winning field goal, oh, it got blocked. And like any sort of, they would just throw a complete clunker out against Calgary in Calgary just because they didn't travel to Calgary well.
Mhm.
Second thing is it's Bo's first game back in Calgary.
Mhm.
He's going to
Mhm.
be hyped.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if that goes well though, because he's
Mhm.
going to want to show Calgary why, hey, look, you got rid of me, and I'm going to show you why that was a bad idea. Well, that leads to mistakes, right?
Right. Right. And Dickinson's going to say, well, I'm going to show you why I was okay with you leaving.
Uh,
So,
and
okay.
and
All
really,
right.
thirdly, Hamilton doesn't travel well to begin with, so
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. These are decent. These are decent arguments. I might rethink this, but
I mean,
probably still
Calgary's got to win 6 games somehow, right?
right. 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 That's the other thing is that some of these games I was looking at, I was going, well, somebody's got to lose here. Okay. Third game. Again, pretty surprised here. Saskatchewan Roughriders, 1.5 point underdogs at Edmonton. Okay. I tell
Why?
you, again, right? Again, that's this one like really blew me away. Okay. I mean, geez. I mean, again, it's just a preseason, but look at Saskatchewan. Look at these guys. And then think back to last year when Edmonton, again, I'll say it again, whenever they played a team of decent, capability, they lost, period. Didn't matter who was the quarterback. And so, I think that these riders will be good. And I think that Edmonton will lose to the good teams this year. So it's that simple for me. There's no way Saskatchewan does
And
not win.
Edmonton doesn't win at home anymore anyway, so
Yeah, I know. I was just gonna say, what is this? The home advantage? When have the Elks have never had a home field advantage, right? As the Elks, right?
nope.
Famous. So wow. I mean, this is a good game to take advantage of, folks, at the sports book. All right. Finally, we end with this seems like the only reasonable line in here. BC Lions, 6 point favorites at Toronto. I
Ooh,
think this
gimme, gimme, gimme.
I think this is reasonable. Okay. Trying to think of why, what is going to hold BC back here. Of course, the one thing you always think of is the travel, but this is week one. Okay.
And they
If,
don't play well in Toronto.
okay. Okay. I'm trying to Yeah, I was trying to avoid that sort of history. Same thing goes with the Hamilton Calgary
Mm.
uh,
But
situation.
eventually, when it becomes that long term, it takes a
Yeah.
couple of wins to shake that. Because you remember Winnipeg had like a long losing streak in Saskatchewan for Labor Day, right?
Oh yeah, of
It
course.
took
Yeah,
2 or 3 wins out of
sure.
4 to like shake that from being, oh, this is an automatic loss to, okay,
Right,
this
the
is competitive
mentality.
again.
Right. Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I saw the effect on you in real time, Joe.
Yes, you did.
Every week you'd be hesitant to pick Winnipeg in that game until last year, in which nope, Winnipeg, they're gonna cruise. So, but I don't know. I don't know. I feel like again, BC may have this bad record in Toronto, but when was the last time BC played Week One in Toronto? Week One is can be an equalizer.
Sure,
It's not like you're playing a game on Sunday night and then traveling to Toronto. But again, they have the time, right? This is a fresh start here. So, and
sure.
I'm looking at that against the history too. I'm going to say BC wins this game.
Hmm. No, because Toronto's got tape on BC. Toronto knows what BC is going to be doing.
Okay.
BC doesn't know how Toronto's going to come out with Cameron Dukes.
Yeah.
And I have confidence in Cameron Dukes. I have confidence in Ryan Dinwiddie to put Cameron Dukes in a situation where he can help his team.
Mm,
And same
okay.
goes with how he managed Shag Kelly for all until the very end of the season, of course. It felt like he was putting his quarterbacks in the position to succeed more often than not. It's also a different Toronto team because they're missing so many pieces, so it's hard for BC to develop a game plan against them. And especially with week one being chaos and it being in Toronto, and BC's the big favorite, and Toronto's been getting dumped on, rightly
Right.
so,
Right.
for a lot of reasons, all
Yeah.
preseason. I could see them just coming out and saying, "Nobody believes in us. Let's just go show them why we were as good as we were last year."
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that argument. The bandwagon pick, I think, is going to be BC here.
Yeah,
Right.
like all of the people on CFL.ca all picking BC.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
chalk.
I can
And
see
I'm
that.
thinking, well, Toronto's not a pushover here.
Mhm.
If everybody's picking them, it's one of those games where it's like somebody's being underestimated here, and I don't think it's BC.
Right. 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 Tough to go all chalk here. So, okay. So you're gonna take Toronto and pick them.
I'm taking Toronto straight up.
Okay.
If I were a betting
Right.
man like
Yep.
you,
Yep.
I'd be putting a few dollars on that +6.
Yeah. +6. Yeah. That's probably a solid pick here. That's
Right.
probably a solid pick here. I
I'm
just
not though,
wonder.
and I suggest nobody listen to me when it comes to that because I don't want to be the reason you lost your money.
Right. Well, okay. I'll say it. I'll say it. Toronto +6 is a reasonable pick. Um, okay. So the only question I have is, I guess, can Toronto, keep up with presumably a high scoring BC offense, right? Because of course Toronto loses their quarterback. Of course they lose fantasy darling Ouellette. Okay, fair enough. But they also took hits on the defense. They're losing Quantez Stiggers and guys like this. So can they keep up with, again, probably the highest scoring team in the league this year?
But does BC come out high flying in week one?
Right. Okay. Okay. Yep. Fair enough. Fair enough.
I mean,
Okay.
if they do, they're going to run away with it.
Yes.
If they put up 41 points, Toronto's not getting there.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know if I trust them to do that right quite yet
Okay.
because they have so many new weapons on offense.
Yep.
It's like,
Yep.
who's going to be the big guy this year? I'm not quite sure who it's going to be.
Yeah. Well, I've got I took Hollins in weekly fantasy, so
He seems to
I'm
be the
hoping it's
safe pick
Hollins.
in that.
Yeah. 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 I mean, he's reasonably priced in CFL fantasy. And speaking of CFL fantasy, Joe, you said that you have matchups. Joe and I again are participating in the what is it officially called? The CFL Podcast Network Fantasy Football League.
Yeah, something like that.
Something to this effect. Okay. And all right, go
The
ahead.
Canadian
I'm
Football
gonna.
Countdown guys run it. Actually, Ryan from Canadian Football Countdown runs it, and the rest of
Okay.
them join in.
Okay.
Um, I won it a couple years ago, or I won it a couple years ago, and I've been close the last couple. And then you actually had a decent season last year as compared to what you usually do, so that's good.
Yeah, for about a day and a half, I was actually on top of the table. I was actually number one. I ended up plummeting after that. I was the guy who had Vernon Adams in the game that he played. He did the Aaron Rodgers performance and played, I think, 3 plays in one game. So I remember he scored me 0.2 that week, and did lots of things like this. Bounced down to about 12 out of 18 or something like this. Managed to crawl myself back up to number 8 and got smoked by the eventual champion in the first round of the playoffs. So we were actually in competition for that 8 spot too in
Yes,
the
we were.
last
You
week of that
came out.
season.
You came out on top with that. That's the first time I've missed the playoffs in a bunch of years too. But I didn't have my best season last year, so
Nah, the red, white, and blue, the red, white, and blue, the Rouge, white, and blue did not acquit themselves particularly well
hey,
last
one of
season.
us made the playoffs.
Yeah, playoffs. I'm just trying to win a game. Come on, Joe. All right. So uh, go ahead, do the sadistic thing. I'll be masochistic. Tell me about the matchups for week one
Okay,
of
so this
CFL
week
Podcast Network Fantasy
I
Football.
have an early Banjo Bowl matchup with Safamod from Piffles Podcast.
Oh, okay.
Riders versus Bombers to kick off the season. Love it.
Okay.
And you have Duchess Lombardi uh, from the Turf District.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. We had some competitive games last season. Good. Good. All right. I can take that matchup. All right. Great. Great. Who's Cooper Trooper got?
I'm not looking at that. I just grabbed ours.
Oh, okay. Let's see who's going to be his first victim this season, and we have somebody from the Horsemen, right? So we have Ryan.
I think Ryan's in. Yeah,
Okay,
a
and
few
so
people
great.
aren't in this year that were in last year. So
Yes, I don't believe Travis Kerr of Two and Out is in.
yeah, I'm not sure if he made it in
Yeah,
or I think
he's running his own league this season. I know that he's done that a couple of seasons past as well. So there's also the Two and Out CFL Podcast League, which I believe is open to the public, so you can join in on that if you like. This season. Other than that, I got nothing else. Do you, Joe?
nope.
Okay.
I actually was able to stack my team with a lot of star talent because I was able to get one of my receivers down to the bare minimum. So
Hmm.
crossing my fingers, hoping for 2 or 3 catches from that spot for basically free.
Right. So you went with the recommendation, huh? There was
I
a
made
there
my
was a
own recommendation.
Oh, okay. There was a recommendation in the group chat, which sounded like a sucker bet, based on a certain Calgary Stampeders wide receiver who's going for like 2.5K, and who's probably going to start. So that's the winner pick of the week. So I went with that, even though it sounded like a sucker bet, and that really cleared a lot of space. Really cleared a lot of space. I tried to in CFL fantasy, of course. You don't need to listen to me. I'm not the expert here, but I did go with one from every team in this first game, except I always like to take a quarterback wide receiver combo. So I have Adams and Hollins. I'm hoping that last year's fantasy darlings, Vernon Adams and AJ Ouellette, do something for me because I took both of them in week one. So there we go. I'm giving away my game plan to anybody who might be listening. I hope Duchess is not listening to this. So, um, all right, we will close off the podcast here. Everybody, enjoy week one. I'm very excited. We'll be coming back next week and we'll be able to recap games. Awesome. First time in like what, 6, 8
6
months.
months.
Yeah,
Cleanse
fantastic.
my palate from the last game I watched. Swear to God, the temperature dropped 30 degrees in like the from the moment Fajardo threw the ball to when Philpott.
So Phil Philpott was spiking it onto a glacier, huh?
It's like all of a sudden I'm cold, and I hadn't felt temperature the entire game.
So cold.
About right.
Nice. Turning into Jack Nicholson at the end of The Shining by the end of that game. All right. Okay. Well, G Joe, I wish you luck in week 1, but not too much.
Yeah,
I hope you don't go 4-0 and pick them.
I hope I do.
All right. Well, this has been the Rouge, White, and Blue. I'm Oz Davis for my co-host Joe Pritchard. We are out of here until next week. Talk to you then. Enjoy the games.